Hello, dear chess fans. My name is Eugene Grinis. Welcome to my free chess school, from beginners to advanced, open for everyone who want to improve own game. This video with some tactical exercises is intended for the beginners. There are some practical opening rules for beginners which are usually worth remembering. These rules are: 1. Open with either the e-pawn or the d-pawn. 2. Wherever possible, make a good developing move which threatens something. 3. Develop knights before bishops. 4. Pick the most suitable square for a piece and develop it there once and for all. Or do not move your piece twice without a strong reason. 5. Make 1 or 2 pawn moves in the opening, not more. 6. Do not bring your queen out early. 7. Castle as soon as possible, preferably on the king's side. 8. Play to get control of the center. 9. Always try to maintain at least one pawn in the center. 10. Do not sacrifice without a clear reason. 11. Complete your development before you attack. 12. Pay attention to your opponent's moves. 13. Avoid exchanging bishops for knight. And rule number 14. Fight for space. Now let's take a look at the following game: e4, e5, f4. Attacking the e5 pawn with a pawn. This is actually a pawn sacrifice. This opening is called King's Gambit. A gambit is an opening where one player gives up material with the intention of securing an advantage in time or space. In King's Gambit, the attack is directed against the most vulnerable square in black's camp, f7. The King's Gambit is one of the oldest openings in chess, when white's f-pawn is used to weaken black's hold on the center. If black takes the pawn, accepting the gambit, white tries to regain the pawn later on, after having first secured a permanent advantage in the center. If black wishes to hold on to the material, he must submit to a backward development. The best way to meet the gambit is to accept the sacrifice and then concentrating on speedy development, if necessary, returning the extra material. In many cases, white's compensation for the pawn is a strong center or more effective development. In this game, black doesn't take the f4 pawn and plays d5, attacking the e4 pawn. This is called King's Gambit declined, Falkbeer Countergambit, when black tries to attack the attacker. If you dislike defending and prefer to be the one attacking, you can try this counter gambit A player who plays the king's gambit usually likes to attack and may be uncomfortable when defending. The Falkbeer Countergambit may not be the best approach to declining the king's gambit, but it does have the merit of aggression. You must be willing to sacrifice material for rapid development. In this game, white plays knight c3, developing the knight and defending the e4 pawn. But this is not the best continuation. But not pawn takes pawn on e5, which loses after queen h4 check, a double attack, g3, queen takes pawn on e4 check, a double attack, and if king to f2, then bishop c5 check, d4, the only move, bishop takes pawn on d4 check, bishop e3, queen takes bishop check, king g2, the only move. Now, can you find mate in 1 in this position? Please pause the video. Queen f2, checkmate. Let's go back to the game. Knight c3 was played. Pawn takes pawn on e4. Black could also try d4, attacking the knight on c3. Knight c3 to e2, and now d3, attacking the knight on e2. Pawn takes pawn, knight c6, sacrificing the d3 pawn, with a slightly better position for black. Let's go back to the game. Pawn takes pawn was played. Knight takes pawn. Pawn takes pawn on f4. Bishop c4, developing the bishop. Queen h4 check. g3, attacking the queen. This is a mistake. Better was king to f1, knight c6, developing the knight, knight f3, f3, developing the knight and attacking the queen, queen to e7, attacking the knight, d3, bishop f5, developing the bishop, bishop takes pawn on f4, black castles queen side, with a slightly better position for black. Let's go back to the game. g3 was played. Pawn takes pawn on g3. queen to e2. This is a trap. g2 check, discovered check, attacking the rook on h1. A good move. King to d1. In this position, black makes a losing move. He takes the rook on h1, queening. Black didn't pay attention to his opponent's moves. Rule number 12. Now, can you find mate in 2 in this position? Please pause the video. Knight f6 check. A double check. King d8 the only move. If you didn't find mate in 2, can you find mate in 1 in this position? Please pause the video. Queen e8 checkmate. Mate with queen and knight worth remembering. Let's go back to this position. Instead of taking the rook on h1, black could win the game playing bishop g4, pinning the queen. For example, knight f6 check, a double check, king d8 the only move, but now white can't mate since the queen is pinned by the bishop. After knight takes bishop on g4, follows pawn takes rook on h1, queen, and black wins. Now let's take a look at the following master's game: e4, e5, f4, attacking the e5 pawn with a pawn, king's gambit, d5, attacking the e4 pawn with a pawn, king's gambit declined, Falkbeer Countergambit. White plays knight f3, developing the knight and attacking the e5 pawn. Pawn takes pawn on e4. Knight takes pawn on e5. Bishop d6, developing the bishop. Queen e2, attacking the e4 pawn. Queen e7, queen takes pawn on e4, f6, attacking the knight on e5, which is pinned. d4, pawn takes knight. Pawn takes knight on e5. c6. Beta was knight f6, developing the knight and attacking the queen. For example, queen to e2, castles, and if now pawn takes bishop, then queen takes pawn on d6, bishop e3, rook e8, queen c4 check, bishop e6, attacking the queen, queen c3, knight d5, knight fork, queen d2, knight takes bishop on e3, queen takes knight. Now, how can black win material in this position? Please pause the video. Bishop f7, winning. Let's go back to the game. c6 was played. Bishop c4, developing the bishop. Bishop c7. White castles. Bishop e6. And now follows bishop g5, developing the bishop and attacking the queen. Queen takes bishop on d5, bishop takes bishop on e6, knight h6, covering the f7 square. Now follows bishop to c8, attacking the b7 pawn. Knight d7, bishop takes pawn on b7, attacking the rook. King e7, sacrificing the exchange. White could take the rook on a8, but he takes the pawn on c6. Rook a to f8. Knight c3, developing the knight. Rook takes rook on f1, check. Rook takes rook. Rook f8. Knight d5, check. King d8. Knight f4. So, knight f4, rook e8, covering the e6 square, queen d5, threatening mate in 1, queen e7, bishop b5, g5, attacking the knight, queen a8, check, bishop b8, knight d5, attacking the queen, queen to e6, bishop takes knight on d7, king takes bishop, queen b7, check. And in this position black actually resigned. it could follow king d8, queen takes bishop, check, bishop, queen c8. If king to d7, can you find mate in 1 in this position? Please pause the video. Queen c7, checkmate. Mate with queen and knight. Let's go back. Queen c8. Queen takes pawn on a7, winning with 5 extra pawns. Okay, that's the lesson for today from the Eugene Grinis Chess School. I hope it was useful and you enjoyed it. If so, push likes, subscribe to my YouTube channel and leave comments. And the last question for today. Did you find an Easter egg in this video? This is another interesting video for you. Firstly, you can always find it in the video description. And secondly, you can catch it in the last 10 seconds of the video, paying attention to Easter egg. Thanks for watching.